But the Washington Commanders have done a fantastic job of late. They've won games, and they're suddenly looking a lot more dangerous than I could possibly imagine. I want to get to the bottom of it. I want to know how it happened. I want to know how real it is. And what better way to do it? If I had half a brain, I would have Hail to the Chief queued up on my studio. I'll save that for next time because I know she'll be back again at some point. But let's give it up for my person who helps me in any way, shape, form, or fashion when it comes to all things Commanders. She takes command. Madam President herself of Bowie TV, Candy Waller, CWall. What's going on?
Hey, Kyle. It's so good to see you.
It's been entirely too long. I do definitely miss that smile and that interest. I like you lifted my seat up about a good inch just with that energy, and I say God bless it. Thank you for coming in tonight.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
So let's lead with this. I'm just going to ask it very plain and simple and jump right into it. What are we looking at? I felt compelled, Candy, to bring you on at this point because see, you know it's serious because I called you Candy. I brought your government name in, right?
Yes,
you know, for all the times we like, CWall, what they doing here too? I have to bring it. CWall, what are they doing here?
I think that so I'm gonna tell you what I think they're doing here, like straight up, and that is. I think that they have brought together a coaching staff that feels like they have something to prove. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the storyline that has been there the whole time, but isn't getting as much conversation as I think it should, right? I mean, there are previous head coaches, right, that are position coaches. Previous coordinators, and everybody has come together to create this. Mm-hmm. And, you know, even myself have talked about rebuild because that's just what we're used to hearing. But Dan Quinn was very clear. This is not a rebuild. It's a recalibrate. He said it. It's not a rebuild. It's a recalibrate. Mm-hmm. I asked the question right after they announced their initial 53 and wanting to get a little understanding of recalibrate versus win now and all of that. This is a team that every single week is getting better. Right. Whatever was wrong last week, they are making very detailed changes and being very specific about what they want those tangible outcomes to be. That's what we're watching. We're watching a team that is taking their improvement and their growth very seriously, but it's also a team that I think is very serious about wanting to win football games. They're not trying to let this be a 2-3 year project.
Right.
They want to get results right now.
Well, and let me leave first of all, like, and you know, it was on the other night. I was talking with my friends, you know, Big Jim Neeson company over at Huddle Up. And they actually kind of they lost their opening game by 16. I'm like, right, but they didn't have a chance to grow yet. You had a rookie quarterback in his first football game, and then suddenly he's out here being Joey Burr in a shootout. Because somebody gotta tell me how that's not growth. What are we doing here? CWall, help me, please. And well, you did help me there. The seriousness and the devotion to it. You mentioned proper coaching. Listen, we gotta bring this up too because we talked about it on this show. Dan Snyder out the building and rebooting the front office had to be a little too, right?
Oh, absolutely. This ownership group is not one that is like this team cost a lot of money. And one of the things that cost a lot of money, and I definitely have said that too. Hey, look, if you pay this much money for something, if you pay this much money for a car, I would expect it to go fast. And they don't want it and not have to go to the mechanic anytime soon. So they want it to work. And I think this is the ownership group who has been very clear about wanting to see the return on their investment. And quite frankly, the return on their investment is winning football games, winning championships. They want to be dangerous. They want to be known. And I don't think, I mean, when we look at some of the pedigree of the ownership group and the type of businessmen they are, like you said, Kyle, look at them first and then look at Adam Peters, right? And the from everywhere from player personnel to the coaching staff, again, they're bringing their lessons learned from past failures or past just needing to improve and past feedback to say we're all incorporating our own version of our lessons learned, and we're going to come here and we're going to make this thing work. And every week I'm like, what do we, I mean, Cliff Kingsbury alone,
Mm-hmm.
I've just been like, oh, Cliff, wow, you know, like, oh my gosh. And because in these press conferences, I'm really targeting him right now, because in week 2 against the Giants, they had so many penalties. They didn't score one touchdown, 7 field goals. And every single week, he's able to articulate exactly what they did wrong, exactly what they need to do to get better. And then you see it on the football field in the next game. And it's like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
whoa.
Well,
And it's you know, and it's always auditioning for the next job or just to keep your job too. Let's just be for real about that.
I mean, welcome to the business of football. Like, and I have to say business of football, especially after my intro is talking about college football players being free agents themselves now. So I got to put it that way. But see, and I think there's an element of this. Like, we've been going kind of top down. We talked ownership, we talked front office. We're getting into coaching. Now, here's the part where I have a little fun with you and bring you to a fact of the case that we're gonna have to talk about. It's good to see some coaches out there that can be like parents and help this child get out of their ACC quarterback phase, isn't it? Is that it?
Absolutely.
Is that
For sure. For sure. For sure.
well, and starting with that, I mean, Jaden Daniels. Let
Mhm.
me ask you this: as somebody who's hooked into the team, to me, like, you would be a better person to make this comparison. But somebody said to me, I think it might have been my good friend EJ Christian on the same aforementioned Huddle Up. No, I'm too lazy to reach for the bell. No bing for that one. But he said something about it reminded him of RG3, and I says to him, I don't remember RG3 looking this calm or consistently delivering passes like this. I don't see RG3. By the way, I'm an RG3 guy. You and I have had the conversation about how Elder Shanahan ruined his career, which now, of course, I'm conflicted because his son coaches my team. That's all the okay. But there's no way I felt like, and I have to say this carefully because I do like RG3 as a player. I think he's even better as a personality. I do hope to meet him one day. So I have to say this carefully. But there's no way in my mind that RG3 from day one delivered the same quality of football as Jaden Daniels. Is that a fair thing to say?
Yes, it is absolutely a fair thing to say. Jaden has been remarkable. And I think that and watching him, I asked a question in the press conference today to Jaden. I mean, you know, his jersey, the best-selling jersey on Fanatics this weekend, and how do you just stay calm? How do you stay focused? And he's like, hey, I mean, you got to, you know, and this is something that they say, you got to keep the main thing, and you just got to stay focused, because what if I have a bad game? Then everybody's saying the opposite of me, right?
Was.
Yeah, so I think it's really, it's almost, you know, it's interesting, Kyle. I've been watching him, and it's almost like he has a little bit of everything from several quarterbacks.
I see where
he's
you're
got
reaching
a
with
little bit. It's a little bit of everything.
because we knew he had mobility. Which, I mean, listen,
sure.
I've talked to another people at the high and at the Hall of Fame level, right? You know, I've talked to Michael Vick, I've talked to Jimmy Johnson, I've even done the college level with, you know, of course, Coach Gus Malzahn obviously agrees, but I've talked to a number of people that say that basically in today's NFL, mobility is essential. Jaden Daniels has that. Pick a quarterback. I'm not going to say he's certainly not Lamar Jackson mobility wise, but you know, I don't know the perfect comp for his mobility, but he certainly has it. Yeah. I would say, well, there's a name I would bring up, and it has to do when he was still a Texan, but now he got a little bit of a little bit of mud attached to that. So we ain't gonna bring that name up on here on this show. But you know, he has the look. Who's the best guy that can move? But that's not the only thing he does. I'll just say he moves, he has and mobility only. I'm not saying he's a GOAT candidate. He has a mobility like Patrick LaVon Mahomes II.
I was going to say, it's similar to Patrick Mahomes. I mean, when you talk about his mobility and then the accuracy,
Well, and I was going to go there too, but he can drop a dime
Mm-hmm.
down the field, with a flick, very Andrew Lucky. And Ma- Mazdak comes in with Randall Cunningham. I think that's a good comparison, but I was trying to keep it with the demographic beneath mine. But yeah, Randall, ain't nothing wrong with mentioning Randall Cunningham there too. John Hawkins says the same thing as well here in the comments. Let me go back here too, because I'm not gonna. You got 3 comments in here, Dave. I'm not gonna do all of them, but your punchline here with they laid an entirely new foundation and used the pieces that were appropriate for their plan. The rest were let go. Yeah, purification of the finest order. I think that's a good way to put it. So, but we got his movement, we got his accuracy. I don't know with whom you compare just being able to pick it up quickly off the bat. It's almost like a Stroudian quality at this point. CJ Stroud, of course, is to what I refer.
I mean, he has impeccable work ethic. I mean, he's one of the, the first to be there, the last to leave, and he wants to get it. And I think it's just a mentality. He's super humble, but he's a different person on that field. Mm-hmm. And he really, truly believes he is the best player on the field. And he operates as such. Therefore, the culture of the rest of the team just elevates, because the reality is the quarterback is the leader of the team.
Sure.
And that's the reality. And that mindset transcends. So it's, in the play call, I mean, it all has to work together. But for him to come on there and even sometimes, and he shared this, if he doesn't like something or he doesn't not real sure about it, he and Cliff Kingsbury have that conversation. Mm-hmm. Right? Sometimes the players get involved and have that conversation, and they as a collective say, let's go do this, and it'll work. And one of the things that I on Sunday had to even put my binoculars down, Kyle, in the press box and be like, okay, wait a second, and going from OTAs to training camp to practices, I'm like, these are things they did all summer long. Here's the interesting thing, right? It's one thing when you're doing it against your team. It's like, but I'm seeing it work against opponents' defenses. And I was like, whoa.
I can relate to that. The Jags look great throughout camp, and we know how they're doing right
now. I mean, right, because it's like everybody looks good in camp, but I'm like, wait a minute. It's starting to work. And I've been, I mean, some of the plays are the same from week 1. And we know how Tampa Bay went, and it's just the act. They just had to get in the game form, and it's not any shade to the teams that they've played. Like,
okay, little love Vita Veo's way too. He could be a problem for a rookie quarterback.
Right, I mean, for sure. And that's why I'm like, whoa, are they getting better? I mean, and I guess that's what you want to see every week. You do want to see improvement. You don't want to see the same mistakes every week. But I think that's the fact that between the coaches taking accountability for how the players show up and execute, and the players themselves taking accountability for the execution, right now it's just working.
Okay. Well, yeah. So it would appear, and granted, there's still a whole ton of football
left.
It's
a lot of time. That's why I'm like, can we all everybody just be quick, just watch it and let's see what happens.
I'm enjoying it, frankly. Like, listen, I didn't enjoy having to dog. You can't spell Sam Howell without plenty of L's. Okay, that joke was getting old. I needed something new. And here comes Jaden Daniels. I get it. Jaden Daniels has 1 L in his name, but that was in week 1 because he was learning, and that's okay. So, here's where I'm at. And obviously, I think the defense, you'll agree, is kind of the concern at the moment for this team. But, there's still room for them to improve. But there's a conspiracy theory I'm developing. And since you're here and you cover the team, you are in perfect position to comment whether or not this dark hat I'm wearing is actually a painted tinfoil or hat, or if I'm onto something. Here we go. So the Giants in the NFC East, okay, we know that under Coach of the Year 2022, Brian Daboll, is currently at the bottom of the division. I know you're not signing off on that. That's just the thing I have to remind everybody that was ridiculous. That's a me problem. But with what you hear with the Cowboys, and what's going on there, confidence is getting low. The argument is surely that they too are trending down. the Eagles. I know they got a lot of injuries right now, and maybe they could still bounce back. But today, with the drama in the office there going on, Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, they're not jiving. And then what having happened last year with them losing a playoff game, and we were promised, oh, well, they changed the coaches, so it's okay, and Sirianni will have to do less, and they're still kind of struggling. They're kind of trending down. The Commanders are the only team that is trending up right now. I see a power vacuum forming if it goes wrong enough, because it already kind of is for the Cowboys, let's be real, and the Eagles, and we've cited the Giants already. We'll move on. Mm-hmm. That Washington could ascend and be the dominant team in this division as soon as next year. Am I out of my mind?
No, you're not out of your mind at all. No, not at all. I mean, it's always kind of like a barring any injury, right? I always say, the healthiest team at the end is probably going to be, and injuries do matter when you lose key players. And so some of those teams that you mentioned, the Cowboys, the Eagles, they're dealing with some tough injuries right now.
Sure.
Key players.
Defensively, right.
And the vibe between players and coaching staff is not there right now with some of those teams that you just named, and everything right now, knock on all of the wood around you is clicking right now with the Commanders. So you're not out of your mind at all with that statement.
I mean, listen, I've been accused of more for less different situations. I'll put it this way. I got to go to the comments. Apparently, there's one other person who believes the NFC East is shaking in their boots, says Aaron Smith.
Yeah, well, I do want to acknowledge that. I definitely, I am aware, and I will say this on your show. So, dropping dimes right here. Mm-hmm. I am aware and have been told that the Commanders they are freaking people out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the coaching staff. People are like, what are they doing with these players?
I mean, that's why you're here. I'm freaking
concerned.
I don't know what's going on.
You can ping Darrell, and I told him I might, I didn't know if I was going to drop it or not. And I said, I'm going to Kyle's show tonight, so I'll drop it there. There is a concern.
Wow.
About what people are seeing with the Commanders. And they're like, wait a second.
See, I didn't even know about that. So this really fits the power vacuum theory.
Yeah.
Really
so, people are paying attention. And it's this, as they have even said it, this world-class coaching staff that they've put in place, and these players that people had counted out in a rookie quarterback that is extremely accurate beyond his years.
Yeah.
And
I don't remember seeing that at LSU, and yet here we are.
No. It's different now. And it is different. It's game day different for sure. And so we'll see what happens. We'll see how other teams prepare. That's what I'm looking for, Kyle. Like, once the film starts coming out, how will everyone adjust?
Well, yeah, and then that'll be the true test to your point. And I'll even say this, though, my theory is fun and has some a little bit of weight. At the end of the day, if they go and play the Cowboys and the Eagles and they don't win the football games, well, it don't mean a whole lot of anything now, does it? Now, granted, I like how David Yell puts this in the comments. The point about new construction is that every week is an add-on to the construction, or probably better stated, based on the comment coming up, the foundation. The offseason or preseason were the foundation, not the product. That's, I think, is the key here, which is why I don't buy the ceiling. Well, and I'm not prepared to say that this team has a ceiling per se yet.
Yeah, I they always ask you to do predictions, and I did some, but I'm like, okay, maybe they even heard my predictions and laughed. Like, I cannot believe CWall said, really?
I'm looking up mine because I know they're wrong now.
I'm like, well, dang. I like to be wrong in that case, but barring any injury, this team is only going to go up, and that's the truth.
And let's add this too: you're in the NFC. There's a very real chance that if they could keep this up quite well enough, making the playoffs in this conference is certainly what I would call a relatively short best case scenario, right? Like, as far as a ceiling, if we're using the term ceiling, it ain't very tall if making the playoffs is the ceiling. That is definitely a best case scenario that they could achieve. I feel that. So,
I mean, they talk like it. I mean, I remember linebacker Frankie Louvu during training camp. We were interviewing him, and he made a comment about, just the mentality and getting the little things right in camp, so that when they're playing in December and January and February, and I was like, all right, Frankie, but he's still talking about, when they're playing, and that they got it right early, so that when they get down the stretch, it's like second nature to them. He said that, and then right before week 1, when Coach Quinn was asked about team captains, he said, well, what we're going to do is have game captains. So each game, based on performance, based on everything that they're doing, in the locker room, outside the locker room, on the field, we'll establish game captains. And then he says, and when we make the playoffs, we will establish team captains for the playoffs. And I was like, when?
Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting. That's forward thinking. That's
and that's how they talk, like
speaking it into existence, right?
Yes.
By the way, as a side note, I looked at the schedule. They've played only one subpar quarterback in Danny Dimes, right? Baker Mayfield. Sorry, I make that joke. Baker Mayfield may not be in like an elite quarterback, but he's solid with a good
he's
team.
solid for sure. His playoff team. That's right.
I was impressed with what I saw at the Jacksonville Jaguars joint practice when I went there with the Duval dive.
Yeah.
And what was it? You have Kyler Murray, who, again, say what you will about the Cardinals, he's still a good quarterback and tough to stop. And we already talked about Joey Burr, So you gotta love it when your rookie quarterback beats a guy in a shootout where they have an argument where Shannon Sharp's looking like an absolute fool, trying to say he didn't do enough with that staff line that Joey Burr put up. So, I mean, how good you have to feel? You have to feel great about your rookie quarterback when that happens.
I mean, these teams, they've been beaten fair and square.
Mm-hmm.
Like straight up, like they've been beaten fair and square. I mean, going back to the point that you were making about Kyler Murray, and many thought that this would be a breakout game for Kyler Murray because, the Cardinals have had a little rough patch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, okay, because the defense wasn't doing, the defense wasn't there. And then, but funny enough, in a media scrum last week, linebacker Bobby Wagner, because he's, in his career, he has played the Cardinals quite a bit.
Yeah.
Bobby said exactly what to do to beat Kyler Murray. And I was watching the game, and I said, lo and behold, they're doing the exact same thing that Bobby Wagner just said last week they need to do in order to beat Kyler Murray. Wow. And I just couldn't believe, honestly, I couldn't believe they were executing to that plan to stop Kyler Murray. It's very easy for Kyler Murray to have a good game. And I saw it. I said they are doing what is working for the Cardinals offense. Mm-hmm. They shifted, it adjusted. It wasn't the same thing from Monday night. Right. But Monday night they struggled though. The defense, Jaden just had more time. They got on the field more, right? The offense, right. And they were able to convert to touchdowns and not so many field goals like the week prior. But that may not look like a big deal, but the defense keeping the Cardinals to 14 points is a big deal.
It's a step in the right direction.
The rookie quarterback-led offense scoring 42 is a big deal. Kyler Murray isn't a slouch. The Cardinals are having a hard time right now, but Kyler Murray is no slouch at all. Right. Far from it. He's great. And they limited that offense to 14 points. That's something that shouldn't fly too far under the radar if teams are smart. And what I'm hearing is teams are getting really smart fast. Like, wait a minute. These people are good. We didn't know this was going to happen. Hold on.
Okay. Well, and like you said, we'll see what happens when people watch the tape. I mean, I know that you're hosting the Browns next week there. For the Commanders are hosting the Browns next week. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Stefanski is a guy who can put together a squad that will, he'll have a good game plan. Whether he can execute is the other question. I think the next test then for this team is to not look past Cleveland, thinking of the Browns, right? Or not the Browns. I'm sorry, the Ravens,
That's right. I
So
agree.
that'll be interesting to see how they pull that off this coming week. So
Yep, 1 week at a time. Don't jump too far to the Ravens. Win this week and deal with the Ravens next.
goodness gracious, you dropped so many dimes, I might have to get a new piggy bank. I'm gonna have to go in my son's room and borrow his. Goodness gracious.
Well, listen, Kyle, listen, I'm sitting around all the time and looking around and there all the time. And you know me, I'm taking notes, I'm paying attention. I do a use your clues, and I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. I heard that. Wait, hold on. Everybody stop. And so I'm just like, just trying to piece it together. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So
why do you think I felt so good when my theory matched your notes and we didn't even clap? I'm like, oh, I was excited. But I mean, this David Yale's dropping his share of dimes in the comments here too. The idea that there was a wide gap in talent for this team is mythology. So it would appear for the moment, right? Coaching, teaching, implementation, and execution are far more critical to game performance than the notional, natural. I don't know what he's going for, but basically the talent level. Yeah, I think that's an excellent statement. One can certainly replace the other. Talent is great, but if it's misdirected, it doesn't go the right way. Please see the Jaguars. So, yeah, I think that's a great point. Candy, I'm gonna do picks. You want to stay around and do some picks?
Sure.
All right, cool. Let's walk through it. The week's events and the action that was here should be a fun time all the way around. Let me go ahead and do this and get us ready. We got to get the music ready, huh? So we can dance around here and do some picks here at the moment. Here we go. All right, so Thursday night, NFC South, which I once had said was the worst division in the NFL. Boy, they're fixing that real fast, aren't they? I have Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to Atlanta to battle the Falcons. Candy, who you got?
Ooh, because the Falcons did end up winning that game on Sunday against the Saints by 2. Tampa Bay, did they beat the Eagles?
They did convincingly, 2 scores.
Yeah, they beat them by 2 scores. That's going to actually be a very good game. Tampa Bay and Atlanta. I'm going to give it to Tampa Bay, though.
Yeah, I'm inclined to do the same, simply because I'm back in that space where I don't trust exactly what Atlanta's doing at the moment. That's what I'll say. So, I mean, listen, here's what we've learned about the Vikings doing so well this year. Kirk Cousins may have been a bigger problem than we thought.
Yeah, we didn't know.
Granted,
it was very easy for them to walk away from it.
It is what it is. Speaking of the aforementioned Vikings in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, the Jets and the Vikings do battle. Who you got, Kenny?
Oh, I think the Vikings will probably keep their winning streak going.
Yeah, especially with Aaron Charles Rodgers getting beat up as much as he did last week. We'll see.
Yeah, he was going bad on the sideline.
Yeah.
He didn't look like he felt well at all.
This might be the only time I say this all season. The Panthers head to Chicago. We're not playing with this. This is going to be the Bears, right? We can move on, right?
It could be the Bears. It's be the Bears.
A very compelling matchup, a rematch already coming up. I think it's a little soon for this, but what do I know? Lamar Demetrius Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens do battle with the Cincinnati Bengals and Joey Burr. Who you got?
I got the Ravens.
Yeah, gosh, as much as I don't want to bet against Joey Burr here at home, it feels like it. But then Baltimore is inconsistent. So anybody who picks the Bengals, I mean, if it's a good friend, Mikey B, who's a Cincy homer, I'm not mad at him. Who would have thought that this game would have been a battle of duds? The Dolphins and the Patriots. Goodness gracious. Don't watch this one with your binoculars. Your eyes might melt. Who you got?
I'm going with the Dolphins.
That's brave. Well, they do have. They got Huntley in there too, so he's had another week to practice. Ooh, yeah. You know what? You sold me. I got Miami too. Why not? I'm going to work with that there. The Browns head to Washington to battle the Commanders.
I'm going to give it to. I actually would like to give it to the Browns because whenever I give it to the other team, they end up winning. So,
I I don't mind you making the superstition pick. That's fine.
I don't want, but people are like boo on CWall. But I do think the fans are coming in hot. They're gonna be strong. So I think the weather's supposed to be nice. I think so. I'll get to them.
Yeah, I too will take Washington in that particular matchup as well. The Colts head over to Everbank to try to break the losing streak against the Jacksonville Jaguars. CWall, who you got?
What is going on with the Jags? I'm gonna pick the Jags.
You're gonna pick the Jags. Well, see, as somebody who has already made this pick on the CWall dive earlier tonight, I have the Colts. So there you go. That should tell you plenty. When it comes to that, yeah, here comes Aaron. Don't break tradition, CWall. That was funny. With that in mind, the Bills head over to Houston. Should be an entertaining football game. CWall, who you got?
I was actually very shocked by how the Bills-Ravens game went on Sunday night. I was very shocked by that. Yeah. I think the Bills make a comeback, though, against the Texans.
I think here's the thing. It's the Bills versus the Texans, who I think beats the Texans is the Texans. Entirely too many penalties. Not a disciplined team. I love Laramie Tunsil. You lead the league in penalties, my guy. You need to clean that up. And the interior offensive line for the Texans will struggle against Daquan Jones and then Oliver. That's just how I feel about it. Call it Fat Man bias if you want to, Wall. But that's who I got. I have the Bills on the road in NRG Stadium. Las Vegas, the Raiders battle the Broncos. Will Bo Nix get his second win in a row, CWall?
I think the Raiders take that one.
Well, I've already predicted that Bo Nix will get his second win. I made it my lock.
Got a lot of drama going on right now, too, don't they?
Well, I mean, there's drama there with Vegas with the Devontae Adams and all that. That's a good point. I picked that before that even happened. So I'm where I live.
Okay.
I'm not going to Nix Bo this week. Anyway, so the Cardinals, Kyler Murray head over to battle the MASH unit. That is the San Francisco 49ers CWall.
No, the Cardinals will lose again. It'll be the 49ers.
The Cardinals will make it close with Bosa being hurt again. Mm-hmm. But listen, so long as my dude Frederico Warner's all up in the building, he's got this. I think when it comes to Kyler Murray, give me also the Niners. The Packers do battle with the Rams. Who you got, CWall?
Because the Rams lost last week. I got the Packers.
Yeah, the Rams lost to the Bears last week. And so listen, this is gonna be a great pair of weeks here for Darrell, right? The Bears lost to the Rams, then his team gonna beat the Rams. It's a whole anyway, shout to Darrell Owens, who's doing his football thing.
Yes.
No doubt. I have the Pack as well, in case that wasn't clear. No one here is picking the Giants to beat Seattle. It would be the biggest upset of the year if they did, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, the Cowboys and the Steelers, CWall. This one's interesting.
The Steelers.
Without hesitation. I can't imagine why. Here's the thing. If you're a degenerate who bets, it's the under for this game. That's the only thing I can guarantee you, okay? I think I'm going to pick the Steelers on the strength of not having Micah Parsons out there to scare the bejesus out of Justin Fields. So, give me the Steelers as well. Finally, back to one game on Monday night, thank God. The Saints traveled to Arrowhead Stadium to battle Patrick LeBron Mahomes II and the Kansas City Chiefs. Who you got, CWall?
The Saints and the Chiefs. The Saints and the Chiefs. The Saints have lost two close ones 2 weeks in a row, haven't they? Because they lost to the Eagles 2 weeks ago, and then they lost to the Falcons. We were just talking about that.
That's right.
I'm going to give it to the Chiefs. I was going to say, this is a comeback game. Chiefs might be due for – who did the Chiefs play this past week?
They beat it wasn't Atlanta. It was Drat. Who did – it was close. It wasn't the Lions? No, it was the Chargers. Of course, it was a divisional game.
Oh, I'll take the Chiefs. They might be due for a loss sometime soon, too. Something random.
All we hear about is how they're not playing their best football and they're defensive. Okay, well, I've been saying they're a defensive team since last year. Going back to week 2, by the way.
Right.
When I saw them in person, Everbank Stadium. But yeah, I don't care. Oh, but Patrick LaVon with several holes a second has had an interception every week, and Travis Kelce's hurt. It just doesn't matter. By the way, Chris Jones. Why aren't we talking more about Chris Jones, CWall?
I don't know. I don't know. I use him as an example every week.
I might just clip that right there. I don't know. That was perfect. Why are we talking about Chris Jones? I don't know. Boom. Segment done. Let's go. Anyways, that'll do it for the picks this week. CWall, that was fun.
Yes, it was. I'm glad I stayed on for the picks.
Hey, listen, that's the time we can let the hair down and be a little bit silly.
Yes.
That's a thing there too. Well, we had a great time, and of course, the best part of the show was you validating my silly theory. Of course, I'm kidding. Yeah, thanks for everything coming in here, shedding all the light, doing all the stuff. Tell the world where you can be found.
Absolutely. So you all can find me on X as CWall SE. Please make sure you subscribe to Bowie_TV on YouTube. You can also follow on Instagram or X as well, Bowie TV Sports. Find all of the Commanders content. We also have Baltimore Ravens content, a lot of HBCU athletics content as well. So check it all out. You all, it's all there.
Absolutely. A great time all the way around. Madam President, thank you for coming in. By the way, I'm writing articles as well now for the Orlando Magic on Fans First Sports Network. So, I'm not saying you got to come my way when it comes to your Wizards there, but this is the only situation I'll say this to a woman nowadays. You got my number, girl. You know what you need.
I do indeed have your number. I will make sure.
So that should be fun when the NBA starts. But thank you a ton for coming on and talking some, well, I'm going to call it NFC East football. We expanded a bit on that there, but you brought your Commanders in and definitely shined a lot of light. So thank you for that. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as a student of the game. Check out my writings with the Fans First Sports Network covering the Jags and the Orlando Magic, because we just had Media Day. I got articles there. Of course, my work with the Black and Gold Banneret. I will be in Gainesville for UCF versus Florida. That is still a big deal. Maybe not 4 million viewers on Fox, big deal like Colorado was last week, but still a big deal nonetheless. See if UCF can remove the little brother Tyler title from their football team when it comes to the Gators. And of course, make sure you check out Night Shift Live for the instant reaction from me from there, right from Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. And of course, the same can be said for the Duval Dive Live. We'll have an instant reaction Sunday with Travis live at Everbank. And of course, we will be hosting here in the Student of the Game studio right after that game as well. Don't forget the weekly show, the Duval Dive. We had that 7:30 tonight before this show, the Student of the Game. You could find that, though, thanks to Fans First Network on the podcast and all your podcatchers and Sertoba Media and Huddle Up. And it's all over the place, people. Find it. Make your life better. Listen to the shows. So for Candy Walter, CWall, as we all know and love her from Bowie TV, and a thank you to all the comments, of course. A lot of fun times here. An honor, joy, and privilege to talk sport with all of you tonight. Until then, till next time, class dismissed. Well, I got to get a louder bell than that. Hold on. That's a start. There we go.